Hey Zen fam, quick off, first thing, an apology, I will not be as mobile as usual. I'm having to lean on this umbrella because I don't have a stick because I knackered my foot yesterday at work. So I won't be my usual mobile self. Anyway, time to kick on with the subject at hand. As someone who is dyslexic and colourblind, I myself have found use over the years for various coping mechanisms to deal with this, including while gaming. And in the last few years, especially the last 2 or 3 years, there's been great strides made in accessibility for people with various types of disability to play video games. Now, naturally, most people would be, this is a great thing, this is a cool thing, this expands gaming, this expands the reach of gaming, more people could play video games, more people could enjoy all the awesome, woohoo. And of course, I am one of those people. And of course, there's always got to be somebody who comes along and spoils it. Well, as I've been finding out and researching recently, there seems to be rather a lot of this. See, there's people out there on this twisted little ball of mud in the middle of the big nothing that we call the universe that seem to believe that if you have disability settings in your video game, that means it's just another form of easy mode, and that if you use disability settings, you are a cheater. And it's like, I find this to be distasteful, dishonest, and most of all, unrepresentative of the truth. You see, let's put it this way. If you use disability settings to make the game quote unquote easier for yourself, then the disability settings are not to blame. We interrupt this broadcast to inform you that you have yet to vote in YouTuber of the Month for Zenbloke. He has 567 subscribers and yet only 14 votes. Get on it, people. Get on it. It's to blame. That player is a cheater. Disability settings are not a cheat in themselves. You know, it's a twist on the old axiom. You know, hate the player, not the game. Normally it's hate the game, not the player. But in this case, yeah, the axiom is reversed. So, my foot's really hurting. So, it definitely turns out to be the case that these things are misused. Anything can be misused, you know? I mean, you only have to look at adult entertainment markets to understand that. Let me give you an example, if I may. For The Last of Us 2, whether or not you dislike the game, I personally loved it, is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is, within that particular title, there was a setting for partially sighted people, which basically meant they could go into an area, and instead of trying to pick out the small visual clues that people with normal everyday vision can see quite happily as long as they're willing to visually survey an area, instead of that, they could turn on this setting and the colours would shift in the player space, thus making it easier to find collectibles such as ammo or recordings or letters or in-game collectibles that are essential to the story or to the survivability of the character within the game. And with The Last of Us, that's definitely an issue. I'm going to swap hands, but lean on this side. So, with that in mind, there are people that decided, speedrunners primarily, some of them. Anyway, there were some speedrunners that decided to use this to find all the extras, all the little secrets, all the hidden things in some of the indoor spaces inside The Last of Us Part 2. Now, is this cheating? Yes and no. It's a tricky issue because they kind of are cheating because they're finding things with a mode that would have existed before, but then they're not cheating because it's not like they've called up something that didn't exist. It's not like it was something that was made by outside programmers and slotted into the game. So these things were already part of the game. So you can really get down to very hair fine splitting of minute details, and whether or not it actually is the case that it's cheating is up obviously to you, the individual, and obviously your own judgment. But for me personally, as someone who does have some light disabilities, I don't see it as cheating by the average player. I see it as cheating if it's done by a serial cheater. If you're the kind of person that goes into Grand Theft Auto 5 online lobbies and goes about and dumps money on players so that they get kicked by Rockstar servers because obviously they've got cheated money in their account, then you're a cheater. If you're using an aimbot in Call of Duty, then you're a cheater. But if you have, a visual performance deficit and you use a sight aid in a video game, that is not cheating. And what's really, really disturbing about this is there are people on forums like, surprise, surprise, Reddit, and other such, shall we say, less enlightened places where people are going, this is not right, this is not on, these things should not exist. And the idea that you want to make these things that let people play video games that previously couldn't play those games or play them without immense difficulty through no fault of their own is, quite frankly, just mean-spirited, And let's get something straight right now. If somebody is playing a single player game and let's say they activate some sort of cheats menu, either through mods or through something that the company's put in, or let's say there are cheat codes that become active after the game has been played through one time, and then you get cheat codes open to you like big head mode or whatever, and even more bizarre things after that, then who is it really hurting? The game has been played, the trophies have been pung, or the achievement score has been reached, the player has had their fun, and if they go back in for a second go round with some cheats on, then who's really hurt by that? Nobody. In fact, if anything, that player has had even more fun and is probably more willing to buy another game from that studio or probably in that series, if indeed it becomes a series or is already a series. So that means more sales, which means workers in the games industry get to keep their jobs. And let's face it, jobs right now in the games industry are somewhat under threat. I mean, we've seen some serious job closures going down recently in the likes of Microsoft and Bethesda and some other companies. Although thankfully, at least Nintendo has decided to actually give their workers a raise. Much like a few years ago when Nintendo wasn't doing so well with the Wii U, and Shigeru Miyamoto himself actually, I think it was Shigeru Miyamoto, who actually took a pay cut because he saw it as his responsibility. So I think what we need to do is understand that there are people out there with disabilities who find these particular functionalities to be of great use and allows them to play games with the rest of us. And for those people who say there shouldn't be disability controllers or disability control options, such as enhanced color-coded subtitles, or any number of specialized, for disability user things like audio descriptions to let you know, like when you go into a space and there's collectibles, and you can set up, the sound's a bit like a radar ping, and it goes and it goes and it goes, and the closer you get to the thing, the more it intensifies till you actually find the thing and you can pick it up. These are all positive, inclusive moves, and gaming needs more inclusivity. We need to be able to bring more people into gaming so gaming becomes more accepted in the general strata of society. I've spoken before about how gaming has been around since the early 70s, and technically speaking within the home consumer market, and yet gaming is still looked down upon, even though gaming itself is larger than both movies and music combined. And moves like disability accessibility are one of the great things we can have. So, I mean, let's put it this way, right? Part of that move is actually things like haptics. Haptics actually help a player understand more about the gaming environment they're within. I mean, how much better are driving games when you can actually feel the different kind of road surface underneath you, or at least an indication of what the road surface is underneath your car, than you could without. Food for thought, ladies and gentlemen. Food for thought. So, in brief, gaming accessibility settings, controllers, and enhanced player modes are a good thing. And furthermore, as I said back in my controversial topics video from a wee while ago, if you want to have an easy mode in Dark Souls, I have no problem with that. The fact of the matter is, it just means it changes the trophies, you know? If you use the easy mode in Dark Souls, you don't get the platinum. You only get the platinum if you use the hard, because that's how that game was designed. Right, my throat is really dry from painkillers and stuff. My foot is really hurting, and my right foot is really starting to give out because I'm primarily standing on that, even though I'm using this umbrella. I think I need to get out of here, but I'm going to love you and leave you. You look after each other out there. Hashtag support Scottish YouTubers. And of course, as always, aye, nae bother.